Money is everywhere, yet most people barely understand it. From coins and paper bills to digital transactions, money seems simple, but its true power is invisible, complex, and controlled by systems few truly grasp. Part 1. The Invisible Power of Money. The Birth of Money. Thousands of years ago, humans relied on barter. Exchanging goods like grain for tools worked for small communities, but it had limits. Barter required a double coincidence of wants. Both parties had to want what the other offered. Storage and transport of goods like livestock or grain were difficult. Value was subjective, often leading to unfair trades. Money was the solution. First, people used commodity money, items with intrinsic value such as gold, silver, or shells. They were durable, divisible, and widely accepted. Gold became a symbol of wealth and power. Coins were minted to standardize value, making trade easier across regions. Societies began accumulating wealth not just for survival, but for influence and security. Even early civilizations realized money wasn't just a tool for trade, it was a tool for power. The rise of banks. With money came the need for storage and security. Early bankers in Mesopotamia and later in medieval Europe offered safe deposits and loans. Over time, banks evolved. They stored valuables and lent money at interest. They created promissory notes, early versions of paper money, representing stored wealth. Banks became gatekeepers of financial power, controlling who had access to credit. Loans were more than financial instruments, they were tools for influence. Governments and merchants depended on banks, making banks key players in politics and economy. Credit, the invisible engine. Money isn't just physical. Most modern money exists as credit in digital accounts. When a bank issues a loan, it creates new money out of nothing. Lending $10,000 doesn't subtract $10,000 from the bank, it adds it to your account. This process fuels economic growth, but also creates debt and dependency. Wealth isn't measured only in coins, but in the credit you can access, controlled largely by banks and central authorities. The invisible nature of money means most people don't see how their wealth is influenced by institutions far beyond their control. Inflation is the hidden tax. Money's value changes constantly. Inflation reduces purchasing power over time, effectively acting as a hidden tax. Governments and banks influence inflation through money printing and interest rates. While moderate inflation can stimulate growth, excessive inflation erodes savings, disproportionately affecting ordinary people. Wealthy individuals and institutions often protect themselves through investments, assets, and global markets, leaving others vulnerable. Understanding inflation is crucial. It's not just economics, it's a reflection of who controls the system. The system of control. Money and banks do more than manage trade. They shape society. Access to credit determines who can start businesses, buy property, or invest in education. Debt keeps individuals dependent on financial institutions, limiting freedom and mobility. Major financial decisions by central banks and international institutions can affect millions instantly, demonstrating the invisible power held by a few. Even today, the average person interacts with money without fully seeing the system behind it. Why this matters? Understanding money isn't just about wealth, it's about freedom, influence, and survival. Those who grasp the system can navigate it strategically. Those who don't often remain at the mercy of forces they cannot see. The story of money is a story of hidden power, invisible structures, and influence that spans centuries. In the next part, we'll explore how modern banks evolved, how they create money today, and the subtle ways they shape global society. Part 2. The Evolution of Modern Banking. From ancient vaults to digital networks, banks have transformed the world economy. Understanding this evolution reveals how money shapes society and how a few institutions control wealth on a global scale. The birth of modern banks. By the 14th and 15th centuries, Europe saw the rise of modern banking practices. Italian city-states like Florence, Venice, and Genoa developed sophisticated banks managing trade and government finances. Banking families, such as the Medici, leveraged loans, deposits, and letters of credit to gain political influence. Banks began issuing notes and bills of exchange, allowing merchants to trade across continents without moving gold. This period established a pattern still visible today. Banks are not just financial institutions, they are power brokers. Central banking emerges. The 17th century introduced a radical concept: central banks. Their purpose? Regulate money, stabilize economies, and lend to governments. The Bank of England in 1694 pioneered government-backed currency. Central banks could issue money, control interest rates, and influence inflation, giving them unprecedented authority. Over time, similar institutions appeared worldwide, forming the backbone of national financial control. Central banks created a delicate balance. Growth could be encouraged through credit, but unchecked policies could lead to inflation, debt crises, or bubbles. Fractional reserve banking, money from nothing. One of the most powerful tools in modern banking is fractional reserve banking. Banks are required to hold only a fraction of deposits in reserve. The rest can be lent out, effectively creating new money. For example, a deposit of $1,000 can enable the bank to lend $9,000 more, expanding the money supply exponentially. While this system fuels economic growth, it also depends on trust. If everyone demanded their deposits simultaneously, banks would fail, a reality known as a bank run. The role of credit in society. Credit has become the true currency of modern life. Mortgages, business loans, and credit cards allow individuals and corporations to operate beyond their immediate cash reserves. But credit is a double-edged sword. It creates opportunities for wealth, but also perpetuates debt dependency. Those who understand credit systems can manipulate them to accumulate power, while others may struggle to keep up. This dynamic explains why financial literacy, or the lack thereof, shapes life trajectories and social mobility. Banks, power, and influence. Banks do more than handle money. They shape economies and politics. Large banks can influence government policies through loans, bailouts, and investments. International banking institutions like the IMF and World Bank control resources and impose economic strategies on nations. Even global crises like the 2008 financial meltdown revealed that banking decisions by a few can impact billions. In essence, understanding banks is understanding who really controls wealth and how power flows in modern society. Digital banking and the new era. The 21st century introduced digital banking, making money more abstract than ever before. Online transactions, cryptocurrencies, and fintech apps reduce physical money to numbers on screens. Central banks and financial institutions now monitor and influence economies in real time using algorithms and AI. While convenient, this digitization also increases dependency on invisible systems where most people cannot see the mechanisms affecting their money. Digital finance proves a timeless truth. The less visible the money, the more power resides with those who control it. The hidden truth. Modern banks are not neutral. They are architects of wealth distribution, social order, and influence. Every loan, interest rate, and financial policy shapes human behavior in subtle ways. In the next part, we'll dive deeper into inflation, deflation, and the hidden ways banks manipulate money to maintain control over entire populations. Part 3. Inflation, deflation, and hidden control. Money is not static. Its value fluctuates over time, influenced by countless forces. Understanding inflation and deflation is key to seeing how banks and governments shape societies and often control populations. What is inflation? Inflation occurs when the purchasing power of money decreases, meaning the same amount of currency buys fewer goods or services. While small inflation is normal, excessive inflation can erode savings, destabilize economies, and concentrate wealth among the elite. Central banks manipulate interest rates and the money supply to influence inflation. Printing more money can stimulate the economy short-term, but if uncontrolled, it leads to hyperinflation. Historical examples like Weimar Germany or Zimbabwe show how inflation can destroy a nation's economy overnight. Most ordinary people feel the effects without understanding the cause, while wealthy investors often profit from inflation by owning assets that rise in value. Deflation, the hidden threat. Deflation is the opposite. Prices decrease and the value of money rises. While this might seem beneficial, it can paralyze economies. Consumers delay purchases, expecting cheaper prices in the future. Businesses reduce investment and cut jobs, causing economic stagnation. Banks face loan defaults as the real value of debt increases. Deflation may seem rare, but it is just as dangerous as inflation, particularly when combined with complex debt structures and modern financial systems. Banks and the invisible hand of control. Banks do not just respond to these changes, they orchestrate them to maintain control. By adjusting interest rates, they influence how much people borrow, spend, or save. Through monetary policies, they can encourage or restrict access to credit, shaping which sectors or individuals thrive. The timing and scale of interventions often favor institutions with advanced knowledge, creating hidden advantages for the powerful. Even large financial crises, though appearing random, are often the result of deliberate systemic mechanisms. Debt is another tool of control. Governments and individuals often borrow money to finance needs or ambitions. Every loan creates a dependency on banks, binding borrowers to a cycle of repayment, interest, and often hidden fees. On a global scale, nations owe debt to international banks and institutions, giving financial centers enormous influence over sovereign policies. Through debt, money is not just a medium of exchange, it becomes a mechanism of obedience and leverage. The illusion of choice. While people feel free to earn, spend, and invest, much of the system operates invisibly. Currency value, interest rates, and credit availability are determined far from public scrutiny. Most financial decisions are influenced by algorithms, market speculation, and elite networks. Ordinary individuals often react to circumstances they cannot control, reinforcing the system's hidden dominance. Understanding this is crucial. Money is not just a tool, it is a structure of power. Why this matters. Inflation, deflation, and debt are not abstract concepts. They affect everyday life, opportunities, and freedom. Recognizing these forces helps people navigate financial decisions strategically, understand the advantages of wealth accumulation and access to credit, see the larger patterns of control that shape global society. In the next part, we'll explore how modern banks manipulate these forces in subtle ways to maintain and expand their influence, the hidden mechanics behind the wealth and power of the few. Part 4. How banks manipulate wealth and power. Banks are more than institutions. They are architects of economic influence, shaping who prospers, who struggles, and how wealth flows across societies. Understanding their strategies exposes the hidden levers of power. The power of interest rates. Interest rates are a subtle but potent tool. Banks set borrowing costs for businesses, governments, and individuals. Low interest rates encourage loans and economic expansion. High rates can suppress spending and investment. By adjusting rates strategically, banks can guide entire economies, often to favor large corporations and financial institutions over ordinary citizens. Even small changes ripple through markets, affecting employment, housing, and savings on a massive scale. Credit as control. Credit is not merely a convenience, it is a method of influence. Access to loans determines who can start businesses, buy homes, or invest in education. Those denied credit often remain economically marginalized, while others thrive. Large banks monitor creditworthiness using opaque criteria, giving them power over individual and corporate decisions. Through credit, banks subtly dictate who gets to participate in economic growth and who remains dependent. Asset inflation, enriching the wealthy. Wealthy individuals often benefit from systems banks help manage. Investments in real estate, stocks, and commodities increase in value faster than wages. Banks and financial institutions provide preferential access to these opportunities, creating wealth gaps that widen over generations. Ordinary people, tied to stagnant wages or debt, cannot compete, reinforcing systemic inequality. Banks, intentionally or not, act as gatekeepers of asset growth, privileging the already wealthy. Global influence of megabanks. Some banks and institutions wield international power. They control multi-trillion-dollar assets spanning continents. Their decisions impact entire nations. Loans, bailouts, and currency policies dictate economic outcomes. Institutions like the IMF and World Bank influence policy, development, and trade in countries, often enforcing strategies that benefit global finance. This concentration of power means a small number of institutions can shape global wealth flows. Financial instruments and hidden risks. Banks create complex products to maximize profit and control. Derivatives, futures, and credit default swaps allow wealth to move rapidly across the globe. While they can stabilize risk, they also amplify economic shocks, creating crises from which banks can profit or consolidate power. Ordinary citizens rarely understand these instruments, leaving them exposed to systemic instability. The financial system's opacity is itself a mechanism of control. The subtle psychology of money. Banks manipulate perception as much as numbers. Marketing encourages borrowing and consumption, creating dependence on credit. Financial education often emphasizes personal responsibility while obscuring systemic advantages enjoyed by the wealthy. People unknowingly reinforce the system, believing their choices are fully independent. Money becomes a tool to guide behavior, not just a medium of exchange. The big picture. Understanding how banks manipulate wealth and power is critical. Money is intertwined with freedom, opportunity, and societal structure. Banks shape the trajectory of individuals, corporations, and nations. Recognizing these mechanisms empowers people to navigate, strategize, and challenge the invisible system. In the next part, we'll examine how digital money and modern banking technologies expand these hidden controls, changing the very nature of finance in the 21st century. Part 5. Digital Money and the New Financial Control. The rise of digital money has transformed the way humans interact with currency, creating new opportunities and new mechanisms of control. While cash once held tangible value, the digital age has made money more abstract, invisible, and powerful, from physical to digital currency. Historically, money was tangible: coins, paper bills, or precious metals. Today, the majority of money exists as digital entries in databases. Bank accounts, online payments, and credit cards track electronic balances, not physical cash. Transactions occur instantly across borders, enabling global commerce at unprecedented speed. The invisibility of digital money allows greater surveillance and control by financial institutions. With digital systems, the line between money and data blurs, giving banks and governments unprecedented insight into economic activity. Cashless societies and control. Cashless economies, increasingly common worldwide, offer convenience but also centralized oversight. Governments and banks can monitor every transaction, knowing what people buy, save, and invest. Policies can be enforced via direct control over accounts, such as freezing assets, limiting purchases, or applying instant taxes. While intended for efficiency, this creates potential for abuse of financial power, restricting freedoms subtly. In a cashless world, economic participation depends not just on wealth, but on systemic approval. Cryptocurrency. Decentralized or misunderstood? Bitcoin, Ethereum, and others operate on decentralized blockchains, aiming to reduce central control. However, the reality is nuanced. Exchanges, wallets, and mining pools concentrate influence, and price volatility exposes users to risk. Governments and banks increasingly regulate or integrate cryptocurrencies, demonstrating that even decentralized money is not free from oversight. Cryptocurrencies reveal both the potential for financial freedom and the limits imposed by systemic power. Algorithms and financial manipulation. Digital money introduces algorithmic influence. Banks and investment platforms use algorithms to optimize profits, sometimes at the expense of ordinary users. High-frequency trading, automated loans, and AI-driven credit scoring shift economic advantage toward those who control the systems. Ordinary people often cannot compete, as decisions are processed faster than humans can react. Digital finance magnifies the invisibility of systemic power, creating subtle but profound effects on wealth distribution. The psychology of digital money. Digital money changes human perception of value. Numbers on screens feel less real than cash, encouraging higher spending and debt accumulation. Instant transfers and contactless payments create emotional detachment from purchases, facilitating economic behavior banks rely on. People unknowingly reinforce financial dependence and systemic control, thinking they operate freely. Money becomes both a tool and a psychological lever, guiding behavior invisibly. The big picture. Digital money is transformative, but comes with consequences. Financial control becomes more centralized and precise, even as technology promises decentralization. Wealth, access, and economic freedom are increasingly tied to digital literacy and network participation. Understanding digital finance is no longer optional. It is essential for maintaining agency in a highly controlled system. In the next part, we'll explore how global crises, market manipulation, and economic policy intersect, revealing even more hidden mechanisms behind wealth and control in modern society. Part 6. Global Crises and Market Manipulation. Banks and financial institutions wield immense influence over the global economy, often shaping crises, recoveries, and wealth distribution in ways the public rarely perceives. Understanding these dynamics reveals hidden levers of power. The role of crises in financial control. Economic crises are rarely entirely accidental. Bank failures, stock market crashes, and recessions can concentrate wealth and power in the hands of a few. During crises, central banks inject liquidity and adjust policies, often favoring large institutions over individual citizens. Historically, events like the Great Depression, 1929, and the 2008 financial crash illustrate how instability benefits those positioned to act strategically. Crises are opportunities for banks to reshape economies, enforce debt obligations, and influence government policy. Market manipulation techniques. Banks and financial giants use numerous tools to subtly influence markets. Speculation. Large trades can move markets, affecting prices of stocks, currencies, and commodities. Short selling, strategic borrowing and selling of assets, can profit from declines, indirectly pressuring markets. Derivative instruments, complex contracts like options, futures, and swaps, allow institutions to control risk and exploit volatility. These mechanisms create a system where profit and power often outweigh transparency, leaving ordinary participants at a disadvantage. The global financial web. The world economy is interconnected, and banks coordinate across borders. Decisions by institutions in New York, London, or Tokyo can ripple worldwide, affecting millions of people instantly. International bodies like the IMF and World Bank set policies that influence global trade, currency stability, and development loans. Developing nations often depend on these institutions, creating a structural dependency that perpetuates influence and control. Global finance is not merely about wealth. It is a web of influence linking countries, corporations, and individuals. Crisis as a tool for social engineering. Crises often create societal shifts that reinforce financial hierarchies. During recessions, small businesses and middle-class households suffer disproportionately. Governments may implement austerity, relying on debt and credit systems controlled by banks. Wealthy entities with diversified portfolios and privileged access to credit emerge stronger, widening inequality. Economic turbulence is leveraged to guide society subtly, shaping behavior, policy, and expectations. Information and perception. Control is not only through money, it's also through information. Media, reports, and economic forecasts influence public perception of stability and opportunity. Banks and financial institutions strategically release or withhold data to guide markets and sentiment. Ordinary people rarely see the complex interactions behind headlines, reinforcing trust in institutions that shape their economic reality.
The combination of money, crises, and information creates a powerful, invisible system. The big picture. Understanding global crises and market manipulation reveals a crucial truth. Banks and financial systems are not passive facilitators, they are active architects of economic reality. Wealth, stability, and power are intertwined with the ability to navigate, exploit, and influence these systems. Ordinary individuals must understand these forces to protect themselves, plan strategically, and maintain agency. In the next part, we'll explore how modern financial technology and AI expand the influence of banks, creating even more subtle control over wealth, credit, and global economies.
Part 7. AI and FinTech and the New Era of Financial Control. The rise of artificial intelligence and financial technology, FinTech, has redefined banking, money management, and global finance, creating unprecedented efficiency, but also unprecedented control. The FinTech Revolution. FinTech combines technology with finance to streamline transactions, lending, and investment. Mobile banking apps allow instant transfers, loans, and payments. Digital wallets and peer-to-peer payment systems reduce the need for traditional banks, giving users convenience and speed. Robo-advisors use algorithms to provide investment advice, often influencing decisions without human oversight. While FinTech empowers users, it also collects massive amounts of data, giving institutions deeper insight into spending habits, behavior, and financial vulnerability. AI in banking. AI extends financial influence beyond human capabilities. AI analyzes massive data sets to predict market trends, credit risk, and consumer behavior. Algorithms can automate lending decisions, often faster and more efficiently than human clerks. AI-driven trading platforms can move billions of dollars in milliseconds, influencing markets before humans can react. Banks equipped with AI have an unparalleled advantage, shaping economies through predictive power and speed. The subtle control of algorithms. AI doesn't just automate tasks, it guides human behavior. Credit scoring algorithms determine loan eligibility, influencing life choices such as education, housing, and business opportunities. Spending patterns analyzed by AI influence personalized offers, interest rates, and financial advice, often steering people toward decisions favorable to banks. Algorithmic trading can create volatility that benefits sophisticated investors, often at the expense of ordinary users. This creates a system where money, opportunity, and wealth are subtly directed by invisible intelligence. Global implications. The integration of AI and FinTech has global consequences. Financial markets become hyper-connected, reacting instantaneously to news, sentiment, and algorithmic signals. Emerging economies may depend on FinTech solutions from multinational banks, creating structural dependencies. Global crises can be managed or amplified through algorithmic interventions, giving unprecedented power to those who control technology. Ethics, surveillance, and power. The rise of digital finance raises ethical questions. Constant monitoring of transactions threatens privacy and autonomy. AI can unintentionally or intentionally discriminate, favoring some groups over others in credit, loans, or investment opportunities. Financial power is increasingly concentrated in the hands of those who control technology and data, creating invisible hierarchies. Understanding these dynamics is essential to maintaining personal agency and resisting manipulation. The big picture. AI and FinTech represent both opportunity and control.
Individuals benefit from faster services and broader access to capital. Banks and institutions gain unprecedented predictive and manipulative power, subtly influencing wealth distribution and behavior. The modern financial system is no longer just about money. It is a technological ecosystem of influence, data, and control. In the next part, we'll explore the psychology behind financial dependence and how institutions shape human behavior through invisible mechanisms.
Part 8. The Psychology of Financial Dependence. Money is more than a medium of exchange. It is a tool of psychological influence. Understanding how banks and financial systems shape human behavior reveals why many people remain trapped in cycles of dependence. The emotional power of money. Humans attach emotions to money: security, status, freedom, and fear. People work not only to earn, but to maintain a sense of stability. Debt creates stress, which can influence decision-making, often favoring short-term relief over long-term strategy. Banks and financial institutions understand these tendencies, consciously or unconsciously, designing systems that exploit human psychology. Money is both reward and restraint, motivating action while subtly limiting freedom. Debt as psychological leverage. Debt is one of the most powerful tools of control. Loans, mortgages, and credit cards create a sense of obligation and dependence. The interest system encourages ongoing repayment, keeping people tied to financial institutions for decades. Even when debt seems manageable, it shapes decisions, career choices, lifestyle, and consumption habits. Debt reinforces the illusion of freedom while maintaining systemic influence. Consumerism and behavioral manipulation. Modern financial systems exploit behavioral psychology. Advertising, credit incentives, and loyalty programs encourage spending beyond means. Easy access to loans and instant payment systems reduces the perceived cost of purchases, driving consumption. Over time, individuals internalize the system. Earning, borrowing, and spending becomes automatic, almost reflexive. Banks and corporations profit not only from interest, but from predictable human behavior patterns. Financial literacy is the key to independence. Understanding money is the most effective way to reduce dependence. Learning how credit, interest, and inflation work empowers individuals to make informed choices. Strategic saving, investing, and borrowing can shift power back to the individual. Education and awareness disrupt the invisible mechanisms that guide financial behavior. Financial literacy transforms money from a tool of control into a tool of freedom. The subtle art of control. Control is rarely overt, it is embedded in systems. Loan approvals, credit scoring, and financial advice direct decisions silently. People often follow patterns established by institutions without realizing the influence. Over generations, this creates societal norms. Earning, borrowing, spending, and debt become expected behaviors. The system is self-reinforcing. Behaviors shaped by finance sustain financial control. The big picture. Financial dependence is both structural and psychological. Banks and institutions design systems that subtly shape human behavior. Individuals can regain autonomy through knowledge, strategy, and awareness. Understanding the psychology of money is essential to navigate modern financial life and reclaim agency. In the next part, we'll explore the role of global finance in shaping nations and policies, showing how economic power translates into political and social influence. Part 9. How global finance shapes nations and policies. Money doesn't just flow between individuals, it flows between nations, governments, and global institutions. Understanding how finance shapes politics and policies reveals hidden mechanisms of power. Debt as a tool of influence. Nations often rely on loans to finance infrastructure, development, or crises. International banks and institutions like the IMF and World Bank provide loans with specific conditions. These conditions influence economic policy, government spending, and social programs, shaping national priorities. Countries unable to repay face sanctions or austerity, reinforcing dependency on financial institutions. Debt isn't neutral. It is a lever of control, ensuring nations align with financial powers. Global currency and exchange systems. Global trade relies on dominant currencies, particularly the US dollar. Nations must maintain reserves of strong currencies to participate in international trade. Exchange rates, interest rates, and currency stability are often influenced by large central banks and multinational institutions. Control over currency access allows financial powers to influence national economies indirectly, guiding policy without overt intervention. Currency is more than money. It is a tool of geopolitical influence. Investment influence. Banks and financial institutions influence nations through investments. Sovereign wealth funds, private equity, and cross-border loans can directly impact local industries. By controlling capital flows, institutions can reward compliant policies or discourage actions that challenge financial orthodoxy. Strategic investments in energy, technology, or infrastructure often shape long-term national development. Financial power becomes political power through control of resources and capital access. Economic crises and political shifts. Global finance often intersects with politics during crises. Recessions, currency devaluations, or banking collapses can force governments to adopt policies aligned with financial interests. Structural adjustments imposed by institutions like the IMF have historically reshaped social, economic, and political landscapes in affected nations. Wealthy nations or financial powers may indirectly guide governance in developing regions through financial dependence. Crisis management is rarely neutral. It is a tool to enforce compliance and maintain global influence. The hidden mechanisms. Much of this influence is subtle. Loan conditions, interest rates, and investment choices are technical and complex, obscuring their societal impact. Ordinary citizens rarely perceive how policies are shaped by global financial power. The system relies on complexity, distance, and expertise, creating an invisible structure that governs economies worldwide. Power flows quietly but decisively through financial networks. The big picture. Global finance is not just about money. It is a network of influence that shapes policies, nations, and societies. Debt, investment, and currency control create dependence at a national scale. Financial institutions and central banks are key architects of political and social direction. Awareness of these mechanisms is crucial for understanding how wealth translates into power on a global scale. In the next part, we'll explore how hidden financial systems intersect with everyday life, revealing how global economic power subtly impacts individual choices, opportunities, and freedoms. Part 10. How global finance impacts everyday life. Global finance may seem distant, but its influence reaches into every aspect of daily life. From the price of groceries to mortgage rates, financial systems quietly shape our choices, opportunities, and freedoms. Interest rates and personal finance. Interest rates set by central banks influence loans, credit cards, and mortgages. When rates rise, borrowing becomes more expensive, impacting home purchases, car loans, and business investments. Lower rates encourage spending and borrowing, stimulating economic growth, but can also inflate asset prices, making real estate or stocks less accessible to ordinary people. Most individuals are unaware that these seemingly abstract decisions ripple directly into their personal finances. Understanding interest rates is essential for strategic financial planning and wealth preservation. Inflation and purchasing power. Inflation affects how much we can buy with our money. Rising prices reduce savings value over time, forcing households to spend more to maintain the same lifestyle. Central banks manipulate inflation through money supply and policy tools, subtly shaping economic behavior. Ordinary citizens feel inflation daily: groceries, utilities, transportation, but rarely see the systemic forces driving it. Inflation is effectively a hidden tax on everyday life, benefiting those who control wealth and financial instruments. Debt and consumer dependency. Debt impacts not just individuals, but societal behavior. Credit cards, student loans, and mortgages create long-term obligations, tying people to financial institutions. Banks and lenders structure products to encourage ongoing reliance, ensuring individuals remain participants in the financial system. Debt is more than money owed. It is a subtle form of behavioral control. Employment and economic policies. Global finance affects the job market. Corporate expansions, layoffs, and wage trends are often influenced by investment flows and market confidence, which in turn depend on global financial decisions. Individuals may compete in markets indirectly shaped by distant central banks or international investors. Policies promoting certain industries or taxation schemes are guided by financial incentives and global pressures, not purely local needs. Economic opportunity is often predefined by systemic financial forces beyond individual control. Housing, real estate, and wealth distribution. Housing markets reveal financial power at work. Interest rates, credit availability, and investor behavior drive housing prices. Wealthy investors often profit from property appreciation, while ordinary buyers face affordability challenges. This dynamic is reinforced by global capital flows, creating unequal access to one of the most important assets for financial stability. Housing is not just shelter, it is a reflection of systemic financial hierarchy. The big picture. Everyday life is subtly guided by global financial systems. Money, credit, and policy decisions are interconnected in ways most people never see. Understanding these forces empowers individuals to make strategic choices, protect wealth, and navigate economic challenges. The invisible architecture of global finance shapes freedom, opportunity, and societal behavior from local neighborhoods to the world stage. In the next part, we'll examine the history of money, credit, and banking, tracing how these systems evolved to exert influence over both nations and individuals. Part 11. The history of money, credit, and banking. To truly understand modern finance, we must look back at how money, credit, and banking systems evolved. This history reveals the origins of control, power, and wealth distribution that still shape societies today. Barter, the beginning of trade. Before money, societies relied on barter, exchanging goods and services directly. While functional for small communities, barter had limitations. Trade required a double coincidence of wants. Both parties needed something the other possessed. Storing and transporting goods was difficult, making large-scale trade challenging. Value was subjective, often leading to disputes or unfair exchanges. barter's inefficiency created the need for a more standardized system of exchange. Commodity money. Early civilizations turned to commodity money, items with intrinsic value. Metals like gold, silver, and copper became common because they were durable, divisible, and widely accepted. Other commodities included grain, salt, and shells, each valued differently across regions. Using commodities as money allowed trade to expand beyond local communities, laying the foundation for complex economies. Commodity money also introduced the connection between wealth and power, as those controlling scarce resources gained influence. The first coins. Around 600 BCE, the first metal coins appeared. The Lydians, in modern-day Turkey, are credited with creating the earliest standardized coins. Coins provided consistent value, simplifying trade and taxation. Governments quickly recognized coins' power to consolidate authority, controlling both currency and wealth. Coins marked the beginning of institutionalized monetary systems. Credit and early banking. Credit emerged naturally alongside trade. Traders and merchants needed to borrow for expansion, leading to early forms of lending. Temples and merchant guilds acted as safe storage and lending institutions, holding deposits and issuing promissory notes. These systems evolved into formal banks, facilitating commerce and concentrating wealth. Credit was revolutionary. It created money-like power without physical currency. Medieval banking and the rise of wealth. During the Middle Ages, banking became more sophisticated. Italian city-states like Florence, Venice, and Genoa developed advanced banking practices, including bills of exchange and letters of credit. Wealthy families, such as the Medici, used banking to gain political and economic influence, setting patterns still visible today. Banks became essential intermediaries, linking merchants, governments, and emerging markets. These developments established banking as both a financial and social power structure. The birth of central banks. By the 17th century, governments sought centralized control over money. The Bank of England in 1694 pioneered government-backed currency and monetary policy. Central banks regulated money supply, lending, and interest rates, influencing both domestic and international trade. Over time, similar institutions appeared globally, forming the backbone of modern financial control. Central banking marked a turning point. Money was no longer just a medium of exchange. It became a tool for governments and societal influence. The evolution to modern banking. Modern banking emerged from centuries of innovation. Fractional reserve banking allowed money creation through lending, expanding economies but introducing systemic risk. Investment banks and financial markets facilitated capital growth, speculation, and wealth accumulation on unprecedented scales. Today, digital finance, AI, and fintech continue to transform money, making it increasingly abstract, instantaneous, and controlled by powerful institutions. Understanding this history reveals the continuity of financial power, from early coins to global digital systems, and shows how modern institutions maintain influence through centuries-old mechanisms. Part 12. How modern banking controls society. Modern banking is not just about holding deposits or facilitating transactions. It is a sophisticated system of influence, subtly shaping individual behavior, national policies, and global power structures. The power of credit. Credit is one of the most effective tools banks use to exert influence. Access to loans determines who can buy homes, start businesses, or invest in education. Denied credit often restricts opportunity, creating structural inequality. Banks evaluate creditworthiness using complex algorithms, which may favor some individuals while disadvantaging others. Credit transforms money from a neutral medium into a mechanism of societal control. Debt cycles and dependency. Debt keeps individuals and societies dependent on financial institutions. Mortgages, student loans, and credit cards create long-term obligations, often lasting decades. Debt repayment limits personal freedom, influencing career choices, spending habits, and life decisions. On a national scale, countries reliant on international loans are tied to conditions that affect economic and social policies. Debt is not just money owed. It is an instrument that shapes behavior and maintains systemic hierarchy. Interest rates as behavioral guides. Banks and central institutions manipulate interest rates to influence economies. Low rates encourage borrowing and spending, stimulating growth, but can inflate asset prices, making wealth accumulation easier for the already rich. High rates slow borrowing, reduce consumption, and can lead to economic contraction, disproportionately affecting the middle and lower classes. Adjustments to interest rates can steer entire populations toward or away from certain behaviors. Interest rates are a subtle form of economic signaling, guiding society without overt coercion. Influence over national policy. Banks impact governments and policymaking indirectly but powerfully. Large financial institutions often lend to or invest in governments, influencing fiscal decisions. Policy decisions, taxation, social programs, and public spending are frequently shaped by financial considerations imposed by banks or international creditors. Countries dependent on loans may adopt policies favoring global financial stability over local welfare, reinforcing systemic power structures. Financial influence is embedded in governments, often invisible to ordinary citizens. Behavioral economics and financial products. Modern banks design products to guide consumer behavior. Credit cards, loans, and investment vehicles are structured to maximize engagement, spending, and repayment cycles. Marketing, rewards programs, and digital nudges encourage patterns that benefit financial institutions. Even when consumers act voluntarily, their choices are shaped by the architecture of banking products. Banks effectively program societal behavior through financial incentives. The big picture. Modern banking is a web of control. Credit, debt, and interest rates are tools for guiding society. Financial institutions influence national policy, economic behavior, and wealth distribution. Awareness and understanding of these systems are essential for maintaining autonomy and strategic decision-making. In the next part, we'll explore how global crises, pandemics, and technological shifts amplify financial control, revealing how banks and institutions respond to and shape major societal events. Part 13. Global Crises, Pandemics, and Financial Influence. Crises, whether financial, environmental, or health-related, expose the true power of global financial systems. Banks and institutions not only react to crises, they often strategically influence outcomes, shaping economies and societies. Financial crises as instruments of control. Economic collapses reveal the reach of banking influence. The 2008 global financial crisis demonstrated how a few major banks' decisions could destabilize the entire world economy.
Governments and central banks intervened, rescuing large institutions while ordinary citizens bore much of the impact. Crises often redistribute wealth, strengthen elite institutions, and reinforce dependency on financial systems. Financial turmoil is rarely random. It is an opportunity to consolidate influence and reshape markets. Pandemics and economic shifts. Health crises, like the COVID-19 pandemic, intersected with financial power. Banks and investors anticipated shifts in markets, profiting from stock fluctuations and asset reallocation. Governments borrowed heavily to finance relief programs, increasing national debt and expanding reliance on central banks. Pandemic responses often accelerated trends like digital payments, online banking, and fintech adoption, increasing institutional oversight of personal finances. Crises reveal how societal dependency on financial institutions intensifies during emergencies. Technological shifts and financial control. Technology amplifies banking influence in crises. Algorithmic trading, AI-driven financial modeling, and predictive analytics allow institutions to act faster than governments or individuals. Digital currencies and cashless payment systems increase traceability and centralization of control. Even public aid, loans, and credit assistance are monitored and managed via digital infrastructure, embedding systemic influence into everyday life. Technology transforms crises into opportunities for control rather than merely challenges. Behavioral economics in crisis management. Crises manipulate societal behavior. Panic and uncertainty drive spending, saving, and investment patterns, often anticipated by banks. Psychological nudges embedded in financial systems, interest changes, lending policies, or payment deferrals, guide behavior without overt coercion. People respond predictably to scarcity, risk, and uncertainty, reinforcing cycles of dependency on banks and financial institutions. Banks leverage both fear and opportunity to influence decisions. Global coordination and influence. Major crises highlight the coordination among international banks and institutions. The International Monetary Fund, or IMF, World Bank, and multinational banks influence recovery programs, bailout conditions, and market stabilization efforts. Emerging economies often comply with conditions in exchange for assistance, creating structural dependence on global financial systems. Financial influence shapes policy, trade, and economic priorities across borders. Crises underscore that financial power extends far beyond individual nations, shaping global outcomes. The big picture. Global crises reveal the hidden architecture of financial influence. Banks and institutions anticipate, react to, and often shape crises for strategic advantage. Dependency on credit, loans, and digital financial systems increases during emergencies. Understanding these dynamics empowers individuals and societies to navigate crises with awareness, strategy, and resilience. In the next part, we'll examine how wealth concentration affects innovation, technology, and the future of global society, revealing another dimension of financial influence. Part 14. Wealth Concentration, Innovation, and the Future. Money and power are deeply interconnected. Wealth concentration shapes not only economies, but also the pace and direction of innovation, influencing the future of societies worldwide. The concentration of wealth. Wealth has always been unevenly distributed, but modern finance amplifies these disparities. A small percentage of individuals and institutions control a significant portion of global assets. Concentrated wealth translates into political influence, access to technology, and control over markets.
Ordinary people often have limited means to accumulate wealth, reinforcing systemic inequality. Wealth is more than money. It is the ability to shape society and influence progress. Innovation and financial backing. Innovation often depends on capital. Startups, research projects, and technological breakthroughs require funding, infrastructure, and resources. Those with concentrated wealth decide which technologies to support, influencing global development priorities. Financial institutions, venture capitalists, and multinational corporations guide innovation toward profitable or strategic objectives, rather than purely societal needs. In this way, money shapes not just commerce, but the trajectory of human progress. Technology, automation, and the future of work. Financial concentration affects employment and technology adoption. Capital-rich entities can invest in automation, AI, and robotics, increasing productivity but potentially displacing workers. Policy decisions regarding labor, taxation, and innovation are influenced by wealthy stakeholders and financial systems. Ordinary workers often experience limited agency, reacting to changes shaped by capital and institutional priorities. Money and innovation are intertwined with social and economic power structures. Global impact and responsibility. Wealth concentration carries both opportunities and risks. Positive. Funding for clean energy, healthcare, and education can accelerate societal advancement. Negative. Decisions favoring profit over social welfare widen inequality, limit access, and concentrate control. Global challenges like climate change, pandemics, and resource distribution are shaped by the priorities of the wealthy and financial institutions. Understanding the role of wealth in innovation helps us predict and navigate societal trajectories. The future of finance and influence. Looking ahead, financial power will increasingly shape AI and digital finance controlling economic behavior at an unprecedented scale. Global policy decisions as institutions with capital influence governments and markets. Societal opportunities determining who benefits from technological progress and who is left behind. Money is no longer just currency. It is a tool for shaping society, guiding innovation, and directing the future. The big picture. Wealth concentration is not just an economic phenomenon. It is a determinant of innovation, opportunity, and societal evolution. Financial power shapes who creates, who benefits, and how societies progress. Individuals and nations must navigate this landscape strategically, balancing opportunity and dependence. Recognizing the connection between money and power in innovation is essential for understanding the modern world and the forces that shape our collective future. Part 15. The invisible forces behind wealth and power. Wealth and power are often visible in lavish lifestyles, corporate dominance, and political influence. Yet beneath the surface lies a network of invisible forces, systems, strategies, and structures that shape societies, economies, and human behavior. The network effect of influence. Power is rarely isolated. Wealthy individuals, corporations, and banks form interconnected networks, sharing resources, information, and strategic decisions. Decisions made in boardrooms, central banks, or political offices often ripple across the global economy, impacting millions unknowingly. Influence compounds when actors coordinate across industries, countries, and financial markets. This network effect ensures that small, invisible decisions produce massive societal consequences. Institutional control. Institutions, banks, central banks, multinational corporations, and international organizations shape norms and expectations. Credit criteria, investment strategies, and corporate policies determine who succeeds and who struggles. Institutions embed control into systems. Credit scoring, digital payment networks, and investment algorithms guide behavior subtly. The invisible hand of these entities influences markets, governments, and individuals simultaneously. The system operates efficiently because its influence is largely unnoticed. Information as power. Access to timely, accurate, and strategic data enables financial actors to anticipate trends, manipulate markets, and guide policy. Governments, investors, and institutions leverage data to create predictable outcomes, often unbeknownst to ordinary citizens. Misinformation, selective disclosure, and complexity amplify asymmetries of knowledge, enhancing power for the informed. Information becomes a critical invisible currency, often outweighing material wealth. Psychology and behavioral influence. Human behavior is shaped by subtle mechanisms. Marketing, credit systems, and policy design exploit cognitive biases, nudging people toward desired financial behavior. Dependence on debt, digital systems, and institutional infrastructure reinforces patterns that benefit elites. Even voluntary choices are frequently guided by structured incentives, creating a sense of agency that is partially illusory. The invisible hand of psychology is as potent as laws or regulations in maintaining control. Global systems and interdependencies. The modern world is highly interconnected. Financial systems, trade networks, supply chains, and digital infrastructure create interdependencies between nations, corporations, and populations. A decision in one sector can cascade globally, influencing economies, politics, and social structures. Understanding these interdependencies is key to recognizing how invisible forces operate at both macro and micro levels. The power of systems lies in their subtle, often imperceptible influence. The big picture. The invisible forces behind wealth and power shape human history and contemporary society. Networks, institutions, information, psychology, and global systems interact to concentrate influence. Ordinary individuals often experience the effects without seeing the underlying mechanisms. Awareness of these forces empowers strategic thinking, resilience, and the ability to navigate a complex, interconnected world. In the next part, we'll explore how financial education and personal strategy can reclaim agency, allowing individuals to operate within these invisible systems. Part 16. Financial Education and Reclaiming Personal Agency. Understanding the invisible forces of money, power, and global finance is only the first step. Financial education equips individuals with the tools to navigate these systems, make informed decisions, and reclaim personal agency. The importance of financial literacy. Financial literacy is more than knowing how to save or budget. It includes understanding credit, interest, inflation, and investment strategies. Knowledge of risk management, diversification, and leverage allows individuals to protect and grow wealth. Educated individuals are less likely to fall into debt traps or predatory financial schemes, maintaining control over their financial futures. Financial literacy transforms money from a tool of dependence into a tool of empowerment. Understanding credit and debt. Credit is central to modern finance. Understanding how loans, mortgages, and credit cards work helps individuals avoid costly mistakes. Recognizing the long-term impact of interest rates and repayment schedules allows strategic borrowing. Awareness of how banks evaluate creditworthiness reduces vulnerability to manipulation. Debt, when managed intelligently, can become a lever for growth, not a chain of control. Investment knowledge and wealth building. Investing is essential to reclaiming agency. Even small, consistent investments can accumulate significant wealth over time. Diversifying assets across stocks, bonds, real estate, and alternative investments reduces risk while maximizing growth potential. Investments turn money into a proactive tool, enabling participation in systems that previously seemed controlling. Navigating digital finance. Digital finance introduces both opportunity and complexity. Knowledge of digital wallets, online banking, and fintech platforms enables convenience and strategic control. Awareness of cybersecurity risks protects against theft, fraud, and exploitation. Understanding algorithms, AI-driven credit scoring, and online investment tools allows individuals to navigate the digital financial landscape confidently. Digital literacy transforms potential dependence into strategic advantage. Developing a strategic mindset. Financial empowerment requires more than technical knowledge. Critical thinking, long-term planning, and behavioral awareness are crucial. Recognizing psychological nudges, systemic incentives, and market trends reduces susceptibility to manipulation. Strategic financial decisions allow individuals to align their resources with personal and societal goals, rather than merely reacting to external pressures. Knowledge plus strategy equals freedom within complex systems. The big picture. Financial education is the key to reclaiming personal agency. Understanding money, credit, investment, and digital finance empowers informed decision-making. Individuals can navigate invisible systems of control while building wealth, security, and opportunity. Informed participants transform the financial system from a mechanism of dependence into a landscape of possibilities. In the next part, we'll explore how wealth and power intersect with technology and AI, shaping the near future of society, innovation, and global influence. Part 17. Wealth, Power, and the Future of Technology. The future of society will be shaped by the interplay between wealth, power, and rapidly evolving technology. Understanding this intersection reveals how innovation, finance, and influence will determine opportunities, freedoms, and societal trajectories. Technology as a tool of power. Technology amplifies the influence of wealth. Corporations and wealthy individuals fund AI, automation, and data analytics, steering innovation toward profitable outcomes. Access to advanced technology allows market dominance, predictive insights, and strategic advantages. Nations or entities controlling technology can dictate economic trends, social behavior, and policy direction globally. Technological control is power in action, often invisible yet highly effective. Artificial intelligence and economic influence. AI is transforming finance, business, and governance. Predictive algorithms guide investment decisions, credit approvals, and market strategies, concentrating power among those who control the AI. Automation reduces reliance on human labor while enhancing efficiency and profitability, shifting wealth distribution further. AI-driven surveillance, behavioral analysis, and digital platforms influence how individuals interact with financial and social systems. The rise of AI means financial power is increasingly entwined with technological capability. Digital finance and global reach. Digital finance expands control and opportunity. Cashless transactions,
Digital currencies and blockchain systems increase traceability and centralization of wealth and influence. Institutions can track spending, lending, and investment patterns globally, subtly guiding human behavior. At the same time, digital tools offer individuals opportunities to invest, save, and participate in global markets previously inaccessible. Digital finance is a double-edged sword, liberating for some, controlling for others. The ethics of technological influence. The convergence of wealth and technology raises ethical questions. Who benefits from AI-driven decisions, and who is excluded? How much surveillance and behavioral guidance is acceptable for societal stability? Technological monopolies can reinforce inequality, limiting access to critical innovations. Ethical considerations are critical to balancing power, opportunity, and societal welfare. Preparing for the future. Individuals and societies must adapt to this evolving landscape. Financial literacy, technological awareness, and strategic thinking are essential skills. Awareness of systemic influence allows proactive participation rather than passive dependency. Understanding global trends in AI, finance, and innovation helps anticipate shifts in opportunity, risk, and power dynamics. Preparation transforms potential vulnerability into strategic advantage, empowering individuals within complex systems. The big picture. Wealth and technology are intertwined forces shaping the future. Economic power drives innovation, while innovation reinforces economic advantage. AI, automation, and digital finance create new layers of control and opportunity. Societies and individuals who understand these dynamics will navigate the future more effectively, leveraging resources and technology strategically. In the next part, we'll explore how historical patterns of wealth, finance, and technology repeat in modern contexts, revealing the continuity of influence across time.
Part 18. Historical Patterns of Wealth, Finance, and Technology. The evolution of society reveals a recurring theme. Wealth, finance, and technology have always been intertwined, shaping power structures and societal progress. Understanding these patterns provides insight into contemporary systems and future trajectories. Ancient civilizations and resource control. Even in ancient times, wealth and technology dictated power. Civilizations like Mesopotamia, Egypt, and Rome relied on advanced engineering, irrigation, and agricultural methods to maximize resource extraction and distribution. Control over land, water, and trade routes concentrated wealth and political influence in the hands of elites. Early financial instruments, loans, taxes, and commodity storage allowed rulers and institutions to manage societies systematically. The foundation of influence was always control over resources, technology, and economic flows. Medieval innovation and banking power. The Middle Ages illustrate the rise of finance alongside technological progress. Banking families such as the Medici funded architectural, artistic, and scientific projects using wealth to consolidate influence. Innovations in bookkeeping, double-entry accounting, and letters of credit enabled long-distance trade and economic expansion. Wealthy institutions guided which technologies, projects, or explorations were pursued, shaping societal priorities. Finance and innovation worked hand in hand, creating both opportunity and dependence. Industrial Revolution and mechanized control. The Industrial Revolution accelerated wealth concentration and technological influence.
Factories, railroads, and steam engines allowed mass production and rapid accumulation of capital. Industrialists and financiers controlled both resources and labor, influencing societal structures and policy. New financial instruments like corporate bonds and stock markets expanded wealth beyond the elite, yet still concentrated decision-making power. Industrialization highlights how technology amplifies wealth and societal influence. 20th century technology, finance, and globalization. The 20th century saw global integration of finance and technology. Electrification, automobiles, telecommunications, and computing reshaped economies and opportunities. Banking systems expanded. Central banks gained influence, and international institutions guided global financial stability. Wars, crises, and technological innovation revealed how financial power responds strategically, shaping societies in both peace and conflict. Modern finance reflects centuries-old patterns now operating on a global and digital scale. The continuity of influence. Across history, several patterns emerge. Wealth concentration has always shaped who benefits from technological progress. Financial institutions act as intermediaries and decision-makers, guiding resource allocation and societal priorities. Innovation amplifies power, allowing elites to influence markets, policy, and behavior. Ordinary individuals are often reactive participants, navigating systems designed for predictability and control. Understanding these patterns clarifies why modern systems operate the way they do and what strategies individuals can use to navigate them. The big picture. History is a lens through which we can see the continuity of financial and technological influence. Wealth, innovation, and institutional power have always been intertwined. Modern systems are sophisticated extensions of long-standing patterns. Awareness of historical dynamics empowers individuals to anticipate trends, make informed choices, and reclaim agency in complex systems. In the next part, we'll explore the role of invisible networks and alliances in shaping global wealth and policy, revealing the underlying architecture of contemporary influence. Part 19. Invisible Networks and Alliances Behind Global Wealth. Modern wealth is rarely the result of isolated effort. Instead, it is often the product of complex, invisible networks and alliances that span industries, nations, and global markets. Understanding these networks illuminates how influence is consolidated and exercised. The web of financial influence. Wealth operates through interconnected systems. Banks, investment firms, multinational corporations, and elite families form overlapping networks, sharing information, capital, and strategic objectives. Decisions in one sector, like a major investment or policy lobbying, ripple across markets, governments, and industries. These networks amplify power, allowing a relatively small group to shape economic, technological, and political landscapes globally. Influence is multiplied through coordination and information flow, often unseen by the public. Alliances between institutions. Institutions maintain strategic alliances to maximize profit and control. Central banks collaborate with international financial organizations to stabilize economies and coordinate policy. Large corporations form partnerships, mergers, and joint ventures to expand market influence. Political and financial elites often lobby governments, shaping regulations, taxation, and incentives in ways that reinforce their networks. These alliances are not immediately visible, but their impact permeates society. Information as currency. Knowledge is a crucial asset in these networks. Data on markets, consumer behavior, technological trends, and geopolitical shifts
provides predictive power. Those with superior information can act before markets or governments, consolidating advantage. Control over information flow ensures that the broader public reacts to conditions created by elite decision-making rather than influencing them. Information is both a shield and a lever, protecting wealth while guiding systemic behavior. Psychology and behavioral economics. The networks leverage human psychology to maintain influence. Credit systems, marketing, and digital platforms nudge behavior in predictable ways, encouraging compliance with financial and social norms. Debt, scarcity, and incentive structures subtly shape individual and collective decision-making. Even voluntary actions often align with patterns designed by institutions, making people participants in a system they cannot fully see. Behavioral influence is an invisible yet powerful tool for consolidating wealth and control. Global coordination and crisis management. Invisible networks become especially prominent during crises. Financial institutions coordinate to manage recessions, currency fluctuations, and market volatility. International alliances guide recovery programs, bailouts, and economic restructuring, influencing policies in multiple nations. Ordinary citizens experience the effects without perceiving the underlying coordination and strategic decision-making. Crisis response is a demonstration of networked influence at a global scale. The big picture. The architecture of global wealth relies on invisible networks and alliances. Power is concentrated among interconnected elites across finance, politics, and technology. Coordination, information control, and psychological influence reinforce systemic advantage. Awareness of these networks empowers individuals to anticipate shifts, strategize, and navigate complex global systems effectively. In the next part, we'll explore how these invisible networks intersect with AI, digital finance, and emerging technologies, shaping the near future of society and global power.
Part 20. AI, Digital Finance, and the Future of Global Influence. As technology evolves, the convergence of artificial intelligence, AI, and digital finance is creating new levels of global influence. Understanding these dynamics is crucial for navigating the emerging economic and social landscape. AI as a tool of financial power. Artificial intelligence is reshaping decision-making in finance. Predictive algorithms analyze markets, investment risks, and consumer behavior at speeds humans cannot match. Financial institutions leverage AI to maximize profit, reduce risk, and anticipate global trends, often outpacing regulators and governments. Those controlling AI have a strategic advantage, influencing markets and policy indirectly through predictive capabilities. AI transforms information into real-time power, concentrating influence in the hands of a few. Digital finance and centralization. Digital finance consolidates control and visibility. Cashless systems, digital wallets, and blockchain technology allow centralized institutions to track, guide, and influence financial behavior worldwide. Microtransactions, instant credit decisions, and digital lending platforms create systems where human behavior is partially guided by algorithms. Digital finance offers unprecedented opportunities, but also amplifies the reach of elite financial actors. Technology can empower individuals, but also embed systemic oversight at unprecedented levels. Global influence through data networks. Data is the bloodline of modern finance. Institutions collect vast amounts of information on spending, credit, investments, and digital interactions. This data enables predictive modeling, market influence, and strategic lobbying, creating feedback loops of power. Nations, corporations, and financial networks can coordinate responses to global events with precision and scale. Data turns finance into a tool not only of wealth, but of governance and influence. Behavioral economics in the digital age. AI and digital platforms exploit cognitive biases at scale. Personalized algorithms nudge spending, investment, and savings behavior automatically. Behavioral insights embedded in platforms encourage patterns aligned with institutional goals, often without users realizing it. Financial literacy alone is insufficient unless paired with awareness of digital behavioral mechanisms. Technology makes influence invisible, yet pervasive, affecting daily life in subtle ways. Opportunities and risks. The future of AI and digital finance presents both possibilities and challenges. Positive, increased financial access, smarter investment decisions, automated wealth management, and efficiency gains. Negative, amplified inequality, concentration of power, reduced autonomy, and potential for systemic manipulation. Understanding and adapting to these dynamics is essential for navigating personal, national, and global economic landscapes. The big picture. The integration of AI and digital finance is redefining global influence. Wealth, information, and technology converge to create new power structures. Invisible systems guide behavior, markets, and policy decisions globally. Awareness, strategy, and adaptation are essential for individuals and societies to participate effectively in this emerging ecosystem. Part 21. Reclaiming Personal Agency in a Technologically Driven Financial World. As AI, digital finance, and global networks shape the modern economy, individuals may feel powerless, yet personal agency can be reclaimed through knowledge, strategy, and adaptation, allowing people to navigate and even benefit from complex systems. Understanding the system. Reclaiming agency begins with comprehension. Awareness of financial structures, AI influence, and digital platforms reveals the levers guiding behavior. Recognizing hidden incentives and systemic dependencies allows individuals to make informed choices. Knowledge transforms passive participation into active strategic engagement, reducing vulnerability to manipulation. Understanding is the first step to autonomy within the system. Financial literacy and strategic planning. Financial skills are essential tools. Mastering budgeting, saving, investing, and debt management empowers individuals to navigate complex systems. Strategic planning involves aligning personal goals with market opportunities and systemic trends. Awareness of interest rates, investment risks, and global economic indicators allows proactive financial decision-making. Education converts financial complexity into personal power and choice. Leveraging technology wisely. Technology is both a tool and a potential source of dependence. Digital finance, AI-driven platforms, and online investment tools offer access, efficiency, and opportunity. Awareness of algorithmic influence, behavioral nudges, and predictive analytics helps individuals retain autonomy while benefiting from technology. Proper use of technology allows strategic engagement in global markets, investment platforms, and information networks. Technology becomes an ally rather than a source of control when used intentionally. Building resilience and adaptability. Resilience is key to thriving in a dynamic system. Diversifying income streams, investments, and skills reduces vulnerability to external shocks. Continuous learning, adaptability, and awareness of emerging trends allow individuals to anticipate changes and seize opportunities. Financial and technological adaptation ensures sustained autonomy in an environment shaped by global forces and systemic influence. Resilience converts systemic complexity into a landscape of opportunity. Ethics and social responsibility.
Agency is not only about personal gain, it also involves responsible participation. Ethical decision-making in investments, consumption, and technology use affects broader systems. Collective awareness and action can mitigate inequities created by concentrated power and systemic manipulation. Individual choices, when informed and principled, contribute to a more balanced and equitable system. Agency is both personal empowerment and societal responsibility. The big picture. Personal agency in a technologically driven financial world is achievable through knowledge of systems, incentives, and hidden influences, strategic use of financial literacy, investments, and digital tools, resilience and adaptability, and ethical awareness. By understanding and navigating complex networks of wealth, finance, and technology, individuals can regain control over their economic and personal lives, turning potential dependency into empowerment. Part 19. Invisible Networks and Alliances Behind Global Wealth. Modern wealth is rarely the result of isolated effort. Instead, it is often the product of complex, invisible networks and alliances that span industries, nations, and global markets. Understanding these networks illuminates how influence is consolidated and exercised. The web of financial influence. Wealth operates through interconnected systems. Banks, investment firms, multinational corporations, and elite families form overlapping networks, sharing information, capital, and strategic objectives. Decisions in one sector, like a major investment or policy lobbying, ripple across markets, governments, and industries. These networks amplify power, allowing a relatively small group to shape economic, technological, and political landscapes globally. Influence is multiplied through coordination and information flow, often unseen by the public. Alliances between institutions. Institutions maintain strategic alliances to maximize profit and control. Central banks collaborate with international financial organizations to stabilize economies and coordinate policy. Large corporations form partnerships, mergers, and joint ventures to expand market influence. Political and financial elites often lobby governments, shaping regulations, taxation, and incentives in ways that reinforce their networks. These alliances are not immediately visible, but their impact permeates society. Information as currency. Knowledge is a crucial asset in these networks. Data on markets, consumer behavior, technological trends, and geopolitical shifts provides predictive power. Those with superior information can act before markets or governments, consolidating advantage. Control over information flow ensures that the broader public reacts to conditions created by elite decision-making rather than influencing them. Information is both a shield and a lever, protecting wealth while guiding systemic behavior. Psychology and behavioral economics. The networks leverage human psychology to maintain influence. Credit systems, marketing, and digital platforms nudge behavior in predictable ways, encouraging compliance with financial and social norms. Debt, scarcity, and incentive structures subtly shape individual and collective decision-making. Even voluntary actions often align with patterns designed by institutions, making people participants in a system they cannot fully see. Behavioral influence is an invisible yet powerful tool for consolidating wealth and control. Global coordination and crisis management. Invisible networks become especially prominent during crises. Financial institutions coordinate to manage recessions, currency fluctuations, and market volatility. International alliances guide recovery programs, bailouts, and economic restructuring, influencing policies in multiple nations. Ordinary citizens experience the effects without perceiving the underlying coordination and strategic decision-making. crisis response is a demonstration of networked influence at a global scale. The big picture. The architecture of global wealth relies on invisible networks and alliances. Power is concentrated among interconnected elites across finance, politics, and technology. Coordination, information control, and psychological influence reinforce systemic advantage. Awareness of these networks empowers individuals to anticipate shifts, strategize, and navigate complex global systems effectively. In the next part, we'll explore how these invisible networks intersect with AI, digital finance, and emerging technologies, shaping the near future of society and global power. Part 23. Lessons from history applied to the future of wealth and technology. History provides invaluable insights into how wealth, finance, and technology interact. By studying patterns of the past, we can anticipate future trends, risks, and opportunities in a world increasingly shaped by AI, digital finance, and global networks. Recurring patterns of influence. Throughout history, certain patterns repeat. Wealth concentration. A small group consistently holds disproportionate power, shaping economies and innovation. Technology as an amplifier. Advances from irrigation to AI magnify influence and control. Financial instruments as leverage. Credit, investment, and banking systems enable power consolidation. Crisis as opportunity. Wars, pandemics, and economic collapses often redistribute wealth and reinforce systemic hierarchies. Understanding historical crisis patterns allows individuals and societies to predict and strategically respond to shifts. Innovation and power dynamics. Innovation has historically favored those with resources. Renaissance patrons funded discoveries and art, shaping societal priorities. Industrialists controlled mechanization and labor, dictating wealth flows and policy influence. Today, AI and digital platforms amplify this dynamic, giving technological advantage to wealthy institutions and nations. Technological access and strategic investment determine who participates meaningfully in shaping the future. Crisis as a catalyst. Crises repeatedly demonstrate how systems respond strategically. Financial collapses, pandemics, and geopolitical upheavals have historically consolidated power among elites. Institutions with foresight often benefit from crises, while the general population bears disproportionate consequences. Understanding historical crisis patterns allows individuals to prepare, adapt, and navigate turbulent times. Crises are not random. They reveal structural dependencies and opportunities. Education and agency. Historical lessons highlight the value of knowledge. Literacy, numeracy, and technical skills allowed individuals to participate in economies previously closed to them. Modern financial and technological literacy empowers individuals to navigate complex digital, AI-driven, and global systems. Awareness of systemic influence, behavioral economics, and strategic planning is crucial for maintaining autonomy. Education transforms historical patterns from deterministic constraints into navigable landscapes. Strategic application. By applying historical insights, individuals can identify emerging technologies and markets before they dominate. Anticipate financial and systemic risks, avoiding pitfalls that ensnared previous generations. Leverage strategic alliances, knowledge, and digital tools to enhance agency and opportunity. Strategy, informed by history, transforms reaction into proactive participation. The big picture. History is more than a record of events. It is a map for navigating the future.
patterns of wealth, finance, and technology influence repeat, albeit in new forms. Understanding these patterns allows individuals and institutions to anticipate trends, seize opportunities, and mitigate risks. Historical perspective combined with modern insight creates a foundation for empowered participation in a complex, interconnected world. In the next part, we'll explore how individuals can position themselves in an AI-driven, digitally integrated global economy, building on historical lessons and future predictions.
Part 24. Positioning yourself strategically in a digital and AI-driven economy. In a world where AI, digital finance, and global networks dominate, strategic positioning is essential for maintaining personal agency, growing wealth, and seizing opportunities. Success depends not only on knowledge, but also on tactical action informed by trends and historical insight. Understanding your environment. Strategic positioning begins with comprehension. Analyze emerging technologies, market trends, and AI-driven platforms to identify opportunities and risks. Understand the influence of financial institutions, digital currencies, and behavioral algorithms on your economic landscape. Recognize the forces that shape decisions, markets, and social behavior, allowing you to anticipate shifts rather than react passively. Awareness transforms uncertainty into a landscape of strategic options. Skill and knowledge development. In the digital economy, skill is power. Mastering AI, coding, data analysis, and digital finance tools opens new avenues for income, innovation, and influence. Continuous learning ensures adaptation to rapid technological change, preserving relevance and competitiveness. Cross-disciplinary knowledge, combining finance, technology, and behavioral understanding, provides a comprehensive strategic advantage. Skills enable individuals to participate meaningfully in shaping their financial and technological futures. Financial strategy in the digital era. Financial literacy must evolve alongside technology. Diversify investments across digital assets, traditional markets, and emerging technologies to manage risk. Leverage AI-driven platforms for research, trend prediction, and automated management, but maintain critical oversight. Understand digital payment systems, blockchain infrastructure, and central bank policies to navigate global financial networks effectively. A proactive financial strategy transforms complexity into opportunity and resilience. Leveraging networks and collaboration. Strategic positioning requires alliances and collaboration. Engage with communities, mentorships, and professional networks to access insights, opportunities, and support. Partnerships can provide resources, visibility, and leverage otherwise inaccessible individually. Knowledge sharing and strategic collaboration amplify individual agency within broader systems. Networks extend influence, creating synergy and multiplier effects. Behavioral awareness and adaptability. Agency also depends on understanding human and algorithmic behavior. Recognize psychological nudges, system incentives, and AI-driven recommendations that influence decisions subtly. Develop adaptability, enabling quick response to technological shifts, market changes, and policy updates. Strategic mindfulness allows deliberate engagement, converting potential manipulation into advantage. Behavioral insight turns awareness into tactical control over personal and financial outcomes. The big picture. Positioning yourself strategically in a digital and AI-driven economy involves understanding systemic forces,
technological trends and behavioral influences, developing skills, knowledge, and financial literacy to navigate complexity, leveraging networks, collaboration, and adaptability for sustained agency. Through strategic positioning, individuals can transform a complex AI-driven world from a source of potential control into a landscape of opportunity and empowerment.
Part 25. Ethical Considerations and Long-Term Impacts of Wealth and Technology. As wealth, technology, and AI converge, the decisions of individuals, corporations, and governments carry profound ethical and societal consequences. Understanding these implications is essential for responsible participation in the modern world. Ethics in financial decision-making. Financial influence carries ethical responsibility. Investments, lending practices, and corporate strategies affect communities, economies, and environments. Decisions prioritizing profit over societal welfare can exacerbate inequality and limit opportunity. Conscious, ethical decision-making ensures that wealth creation does not come at the expense of collective well-being. Ethics transforms financial power from mere influence into responsible stewardship. Technology and social responsibility. Technological advancement carries both promise and risk. AI, automation, and digital finance improve efficiency but can also displace workers, centralize control, and manipulate behavior. Ethical implementation requires balancing innovation with social equity, privacy, and accessibility. Decision-makers must consider long-term consequences rather than short-term gains, avoiding harm while fostering inclusive growth. Ethical technology use ensures society benefits broadly from progress. Wealth, power, and societal impact. Concentration of wealth magnifies social effects. Wealthy actors can shape policy, culture, and technological adoption, intentionally or unintentionally influencing entire populations. Long-term impact depends on whether this power is wielded with accountability, transparency, and foresight. Neglecting ethical considerations risks reinforcing systemic inequality and social instability. Wealth is a tool. Its moral framing determines whether it builds or constrains society. Sustainability and future generations. Ethics extends to long-term societal stewardship. Climate change, resource allocation, and technological proliferation require decisions mindful of future generations. Investments and innovation strategies must consider environmental sustainability and intergenerational equity. Ethical foresight ensures that today's actions do not compromise tomorrow's opportunities. Responsibility today shapes the economic, social, and technological landscape for decades to come. The big picture. Ethical considerations are inseparable from wealth and technology. Financial and technological power carries the potential for both opportunity and harm. Responsible, informed, and forward-thinking action amplifies societal benefit while mitigating risk. Individuals and institutions that integrate ethics into strategy contribute to a sustainable, equitable, and innovative future. In the next part, we'll explore practical strategies to integrate ethics into financial, technological, and personal decision-making, bridging theory and actionable steps for empowerment. Part 26. Integrating ethics into personal, financial, and technological decisions. Understanding ethical considerations is one thing. Applying them in daily life, finance, and technology is what allows individuals and institutions to create meaningful, sustainable impact. Ethical frameworks for decision-making. Integrating ethics begins with structured thinking. Define core values: transparency, fairness, sustainability, and long-term responsibility. Evaluate decisions not just for personal gain, but for broader societal impact. Use frameworks such as cost-benefit analysis, stakeholder impact assessment, and scenario planning to anticipate consequences. Structured ethical thinking transforms impulse-driven choices into deliberate, impactful action. Financial ethics. Finance intersects with ethics in multiple ways. Responsible investing considers social, environmental, and governance factors, ESG, alongside profitability. Lending and credit practices should balance risk management with fairness and access. Awareness of systemic influence ensures that personal or institutional financial decisions do not unintentionally reinforce inequality or exploitation. Ethical finance turns money into a tool for empowerment, growth, and societal benefit. Ethics in technology use. Technology shapes behavior, access, and opportunity. AI and automation should be designed with transparency, fairness, and accountability. Data privacy, cybersecurity, and user consent are fundamental to ethical technological practices. Decisions about adopting, deploying, or investing in technology must consider long-term societal and environmental effects. Ethical technology is innovation aligned with humanity, not just profit or efficiency. Personal ethics and daily decision-making. Individual behavior matters. Everyday financial choices, consumption habits, and engagement with technology accumulate into societal impact. Ethical awareness transforms ordinary actions like budgeting, investing, or digital interaction into conscious contributions to collective well-being. Aligning personal behavior with values fosters integrity, resilience, and influence in broader networks. Ethics in personal action creates a foundation for responsible influence and leadership. Practical steps for integration. Assess decisions for consequences, short-term versus long-term, personal versus societal. Prioritize transparency. Make decisions open, accountable, and understandable. Balance profit and purpose. Ensure financial and technological actions align with ethical principles. Continuous reflection. Regularly revisit values and outcomes to adjust actions proactively. Educate and share knowledge. Encourage ethical thinking within networks, amplifying positive influence. Structured steps make ethics actionable, measurable, and sustainable in complex systems. The big picture. Integrating ethics into personal, financial, and technological decisions allows individuals to navigate complexity with foresight and responsibility. Influence systems positively rather than being shaped passively by them. Ensure wealth, technology, and knowledge serve both personal goals and societal good. Ethics transforms power and opportunity into sustainable impact, creating a foundation for long-term agency, resilience, and societal benefit. Part 27. Strategies for long-term wealth and influence in a changing world. The modern world is defined by rapid technological evolution, shifting economies, and interconnected systems. Building lasting wealth and influence requires strategic thinking that combines financial acumen, technological awareness, ethical consideration, and adaptability. Diversification across assets and opportunities. Long-term resilience begins with diversification. Spread investments across traditional markets, stocks, bonds, real estate, and emerging opportunities like cryptocurrencies, digital platforms, and startups. Consider geographic diversification to mitigate risks tied to local economies or political systems. Diversification is not just financial, It includes skills, networks, and knowledge areas. Diversity reduces vulnerability while maximizing long-term growth potential. Leveraging technology strategically. Technology can amplify wealth and influence if used wisely. AI, automation, and data analytics allow smarter investment decisions, operational efficiency, and trend prediction. Digital platforms provide access to global markets, networks, and capital previously unreachable. Understanding technological ecosystems positions individuals and institutions to anticipate shifts and seize emerging opportunities. Technology is a multiplier for strategic action rather than a passive tool. Building influence through networks. Influence is often as valuable as wealth. Cultivate relationships with mentors, peers, investors, and innovators across industries and geographies. Participate in professional and educational communities to exchange knowledge, identify opportunities, and amplify reach. Networks enable collaboration, strategic partnerships, and access to resources beyond an individual capacity. Influence creates leverage and optionality, allowing action on larger scales. Ethical strategy and reputation. Ethics and reputation are critical long-term assets. Transparent and responsible decisions build trust with stakeholders, clients, and collaborators. Ethical missteps can erode influence and opportunities faster than financial loss alone. Aligning actions with core values ensure sustainable wealth and enduring respect. Reputation is a durable form of influence, complementing material wealth. Adaptability and continuous learning. Change is constant. Adaptability is essential. Stay informed about technological advancements, market dynamics, and global policy trends. Invest in lifelong learning to maintain relevant skills, knowledge, and strategic insight. Adaptability ensures resilience to shocks, whether economic, technological, or societal. Continuous learning transforms uncertainty into strategic foresight and opportunity. The big picture. Long-term wealth and influence are cultivated through diversification of financial, personal, and knowledge assets, strategic use of technology to amplify decision-making and opportunities, networks and influence to leverage collective resources and insights, ethical conduct and reputation to ensure sustainable impact, adaptability and learning to navigate dynamic systems effectively. By integrating these strategies, individuals and organizations can thrive in a complex, AI-driven, and globally connected world, transforming challenges into long-term opportunity and empowerment.
Part 28. Future Scenarios: Navigating Emerging Opportunities and Risks. As technology, finance, and global networks evolve, the future will be defined by rapid change, uncertainty, and unprecedented opportunity. Anticipating potential scenarios equips individuals and organizations to navigate risks while seizing emerging possibilities. Scenario 1. Hyper-digital economies. In hyper-digital economies, cashless transactions, blockchain infrastructure, and AI-driven financial systems dominate. Traditional banking systems may become increasingly transparent, automated, and predictive. Opportunities arise for innovators, investors, and digital entrepreneurs, but centralization may increase systemic influence. Preparation involves mastering digital finance, cybersecurity, and algorithmic decision-making. Scenario 2. AI-integrated society. AI becomes pervasive in decision-making. Predictive algorithms influence markets, social behavior, healthcare, education, and governance. AI-driven platforms enable efficiency and personalized solutions, but risk concentrating power among a few. Ethical AI and critical human oversight will distinguish responsible participants from passive actors. Individuals must develop technology literacy and ethical discernment to thrive. Scenario 3. Decentralized opportunities. Decentralized systems gain traction. Blockchain, peer-to-peer networks, and community-driven platforms empower individual autonomy and collaboration. Wealth and influence may become more distributed, but volatility and systemic risk remain. Strategic engagement allows early adopters to capitalize on emerging networks and alternative economic models. Decentralization rewards knowledge, adaptability, and proactive participation. Scenario 4. Global disruptions and resilience. Global crises, climate, political, or financial, shape opportunities and challenges. Disruptions can create sudden shifts in wealth distribution, technological adoption, and social norms. Resilience, diversification, and adaptability are crucial for navigating shocks and emerging stronger. Strategic foresight enables individuals to anticipate change, protect assets, and act decisively. Preparedness turns potential vulnerability into opportunity and agency. Key principles for navigating the future. Continuous learning. Stay ahead of technological, financial, and social trends. Diversification and resilience. Spread assets, skills, and networks to reduce exposure to shocks. Ethical decision-making. Align strategies with long-term societal and personal values. Strategic networking. Leverage relationships and collaborations for access and influence. Proactive adaptation. Anticipate change, respond flexibly, and embrace innovation. By following these principles, individuals and organizations can transform uncertainty into a landscape of opportunity. The big picture. The future is complex, dynamic, and full of potential. Technology, finance, and global networks will shape the distribution of power, wealth, and opportunity. Anticipating scenarios and preparing strategically enables active participation rather than passive adaptation. Knowledge, ethics, adaptability, and networks are the keys to succeeding in an uncertain yet opportunity-rich future. In the next part, we'll explore how individuals can synthesize all lessons from history, ethics, finance, and technology into actionable life strategies, creating a roadmap for empowerment in the modern world. Part 29. Synthesizing Lessons into a Personal Roadmap for Empowerment. After exploring history, finance, technology, AI, ethics, and global systems, individuals can now synthesize these insights into actionable strategies. A personal roadmap transforms knowledge into empowerment, agency, and long-term opportunity. Step 1. Self-assessment and goal setting. Start by understanding your current position. Evaluate financial status, skills, knowledge, and network reach. Define clear short-term and long-term goals aligned with personal values and societal responsibility. Identify gaps in skills, information, or access to resources to target development effectively. Self-awareness ensures that action is strategic rather than reactive. Step 2. Skill and knowledge development. Continuous learning is crucial. Focus on areas critical to the modern economy: AI literacy, digital finance, data analysis, behavioral economics, and ethical frameworks. Cross-disciplinary knowledge strengthens the ability to adapt to emerging trends and innovate. Lifelong learning fosters resilience, creativity, and strategic foresight. Skills are the foundation for agency and opportunity in complex systems. Step 3. Financial strategy and wealth building.
Wealth is both a tool and a source of influence. Diversify investments across traditional assets, digital currencies, and emerging markets. Leverage AI and digital platforms to optimize decision-making, identify trends, and manage risk. Integrate ethical considerations to ensure wealth creation benefits both personal goals and societal well-being. A thoughtful financial strategy turns complexity into structured growth and resilience. Step 4. Ethical decision-making and social responsibility. Ethics guide sustainable empowerment. Align actions with core values, transparency, and long-term responsibility. Evaluate the broader consequences of financial, technological, and personal decisions. Foster influence through responsibility and integrity, building trust and long-term reputation. Ethics transforms influence from mere power into constructive societal impact. Step 5. Networking and strategic relationships. Influence is amplified through collaboration. Build networks across industries, geographies, and disciplines to access knowledge, opportunities, and support. Engage in communities that share insight, mentorship, and collaboration. Strategic relationships multiply agency, creating leverage beyond individual capacity. Networks turn personal knowledge and skills into collective influence and opportunity. Step 6. Adaptability and scenario planning. Prepare for uncertainty with flexible strategies. Monitor emerging technologies, financial shifts, and geopolitical trends. Develop contingency plans and diversified approaches to reduce vulnerability to shocks. Adapt quickly, learn from experience, and embrace innovation as a pathway to opportunity. Adaptability ensures long-term resilience and strategic advantage. The big picture. By synthesizing lessons across history, technology, finance, ethics, and strategy, individuals can understand complex systems and leverage them strategically. Build resilient wealth, influence, and opportunity. Navigate uncertainty with foresight, ethics, and adaptability. Actively shape personal, professional, and societal outcomes. Part 30. Final Reflections and the Path Forward. As we conclude this comprehensive exploration of history, wealth, technology, AI, ethics, and strategy, it is time to synthesize everything into insight, perspective, and actionable direction. The journey from understanding to empowerment is continuous, requiring reflection, adaptation, and decisive action. Reflections on history and patterns. History teaches that patterns repeat even as the context evolves. Concentration of wealth and power has always shaped societal outcomes. Technology amplifies influence, determining who controls resources and who participates. Crises reveal structural dependencies, offering both risk and opportunity. By recognizing these patterns, individuals can anticipate change and navigate complexity proactively rather than reactively. The role of technology and AI. Technological advancement, particularly AI, is transforming the global landscape. Decision-making, finance, communication, and innovation are increasingly AI-driven. Platforms, algorithms, and predictive models amplify influence and shape behavior subtly but profoundly. Understanding technological dynamics equips individuals to engage strategically and ethically. AI is not merely a tool, it is a force reshaping agency, opportunity, and societal structures. Ethics as a guiding principle. Ethical considerations remain central to sustainable empowerment. Actions in finance, technology, and personal decision-making have far-reaching consequences. Aligning choices with transparency, responsibility, and long-term thinking ensures that power and wealth contribute positively. Ethics transforms influence from mere control into constructive societal impact. Ethical awareness is the bridge between opportunity and sustainable impact. Agency, strategy, and personal empowerment. True empowerment arises from knowledge, foresight, and deliberate action. Awareness of systemic systems allows strategic engagement rather than passive participation. Skills, networks, and financial literacy create leverage to navigate dynamic environments. Continuous reflection, adaptability, and scenario planning ensure resilience in the face of uncertainty. Empowerment is not static. It is a dynamic process requiring intentional engagement and strategic foresight. The path forward. To thrive in a complex AI-driven, digitally connected world, learn continuously, stay informed about technology, finance, and societal shifts. Act strategically. Apply historical lessons, ethical frameworks, and foresight to decision-making. Build resilience. Diversify skills, assets, networks, and knowledge to adapt to change. Leverage influence responsibly. Use agency and networks to create positive, sustainable outcomes. Reflect and iterate. Regularly revisit goals, values, and strategies to maintain alignment with purpose. The path forward is not predetermined. It is shaped by conscious, informed, and ethical action, combining knowledge, technology, and strategy into meaningful empowerment. Final perspective. The convergence of history, finance, technology, AI, and ethics presents both unprecedented challenges and opportunities. Understanding systemic patterns equips individuals to anticipate risks and seize opportunities. Strategic positioning transforms knowledge into action and action into empowerment. Ethical foresight ensures that wealth, technology, and influence serve both personal and societal good. By synthesizing lessons across disciplines, individuals can navigate the modern world with clarity, resilience, and agency, shaping their own futures while positively impacting the systems around them.